So we are discussing object-oriented programming, wherein I have mentioned that the same programs can be written in a different way. For example, your prime number program can be written in the normal way using main function or some other functions. Okay, but the same program can be written along with object-oriented style because it has certain efficient features. It gives you certain level of security and all those other features also there. So that is why we prefer object-oriented programming, and Java is purely object-oriented programming. Why I say that is because till now whatever programs we are seeing, they had the class. Class is an object-oriented feature. Each program had at least one class, right? Everywhere we had a class, and within that we had main method, then other user defined methods. Okay, but each file or each Java program had a class. Now we have to concentrate on these classes and all. Okay, so that indicates that Java cannot be without a class. Okay, each program has to have at least one class, and a class is a blueprint or template from which objects can be created. So you can imagine as objects are, maybe you can say that they are a part of a class. Each class has objects. Once you create a class, you cannot use it directly. You can only use that class after creating objects of that class. Okay, or in some cases without objects, but it is necessary to create objects, okay, to use the particular class. Now the class determines how the object will behave. So if I give an analogy, if I write int a, then it tells me that a will behave as an integer. It will store an integer, and all the features of integer will be applied to the a variable. Suppose I write float b, then for the b variable, its size will be the default size, that is 4 bytes. Okay, for float we have 4 bytes. For integer also it is 4 bytes. If I say char c, then the properties of char data type, that it occupies 2 bytes, will be applied to C variable. Similarly, if I want to talk about object-oriented programming, if I write some class name, okay, class name, whatever is the name of your class, you will write, and then you'll write the name of the object. Suppose the name of my object is obj. Then whatever are the properties of that class which you have defined, okay, you're going to define that class. Whatever properties or whatever you have defined for that class, all that will be applied to obj, that is your object. Okay, so similarly int a, integer properties will apply to a variable. Similarly class name obj, class ka properties will be applied to object, that is obj. Is this clear what I'm saying? Is it making sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. Similarly, another thing that you would have realized is we get to define the class. Okay, means we get to define how the object will behave, because class determines how the object will behave. But who determines what is the class? We determine the class. Class will determine behavior of object. So indirectly we determine behavior of object. But if we were using integers, then we write int a. Can we tell that what properties the integer means? Can we change the size of integer? Can we change it? No, right? Integer always will occupy 4 bytes only. We cannot tell that change int ka size or something like that. Similarly, the advantage is for the classes, we can define the class, and whatever properties we tell, those will get applied to the object. Is this much clear for everyone?
Yes.
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 Okay. So now, what is object? Object is nothing but, you can say that the data type of object is the class. If we have a class whose name is, suppose, Apple, the name of my class is Apple, then I have to write Apple obj. So obj is an object of the class whose name is Apple. Obj is an object of the class whose name is Apple. So we can say that the data type of my object is Apple. Right? Indirectly, we can say data type of object obj is Apple. So we are getting to define the data type. Actually, we are getting to define the class. So there are so many similarities between the primitive data types int, float, char and your classes. Okay, and that is why it will help you to understand it better. So an object is nothing but it has a state and some behavior. Okay, state and behavior is nothing but you might have seen that in our class we have our class. Okay, we have our class. Here the class name is JT something something method overloading, and inside this class we have our main method. right? So inside classes, till now, we have seen methods. And inside methods, we have dealt with the variables, right? Inside this main, we have int x equal to 45. So inside our methods, we have seen variables. What about variables outside our methods? Okay, so those are called as states actually. For example, here you'll have a particular class. Okay, inside this class, you can have the variables. For example, here I can write int a. Similarly, int x, float b, whatever variables I can write. And then I can write some functions also. For example, fun is the name of my function, suppose. And then I can define my function. And then I will close my class. So inside my class, this whole thing is my class. Inside that I can have the variables, which are called as states or fields. Okay, these variables are not called as variables because they are the belonging to the class. They are called as states or fields. FIELDS. And these functions are not called as functions or methods, means you can call it like that, but a better word is called as behavior. Okay, so we have states and behaviors inside our classes. They are nothing but they are your variables and functions only. But a way to call them is states and behaviors. Okay, so that you can distinguish which is a method, which is a behavior. Method is can be anything, but behavior is always of the class. Similarly, variables can be within the function. But if your variables are outside the functions within the class, then those variables are called as states or fields of the class or of the object. Okay, is it clear what is state and behavior?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so for example, here the objects can be, for example, if you have a class called furniture, class furniture. Inside this, you will have variables called as states and functions called as behaviors. Okay, and then you will create an object of this class. So how we'll create object of the class? You will write furniture, and then you will write the name of the object. It can be obj, or since it is a furniture, you can say the objects will be what? Chair, table, sofa, or something like that. Okay, I'm just giving an example. So all this chair, table, sofa are nothing but they have the characteristics of furniture. That is why they are the objects of furniture class. Okay, that means meaningfully you have to name your class and its objects. Okay, you can call your class and object anything, but they should be meaningful. Okay, similarly, what can be the methods? You have created an object chair, okay, of this class. So whatever methods you define inside the class, this is my class. Inside the class, I have states and behaviors. So those behaviors, what can be the behavior? Maybe construction. You will construct a chair. Maybe the behavior can be using a hammer on the chair. Okay. So all these things have to be applied on the chair object. That means all these actions that you perform on the chair, that will come inside the behaviors. And then maybe the dimensions of the chair can be the states. For example, you can write int length. So length of the chair, int breadth of the chair. And what actions you'll perform on the chair? Suppose construction, hammering, or something like that. That will be your behaviors. So your states and behaviors will both be applied on the chair. Right? So that is how you can apply these properties on your chair object. Just like how you apply the properties of an integer on the int a. So if you are applying the integer properties on a variable. Similarly, your states and your behaviors will get applied on your chair object. I hope this is clear. Is it clear to you?
Yeah, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you want me to repeat anything? Rishikesh, have you understood?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. Ajay Rathod, have you understood?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I hope everyone has understood. Now, let us go further. To create an object, we need a template or blueprint. And this template or blueprint is called as the class. Okay, the template or blueprint is nothing but the class. As I said, all that you define inside your class will determine what should be applied to your object of that class. So the class will define what means what you can define inside your class. You can define the states, or you can call them data fields or fields, and the methods that you can call as behaviors. Okay, so object is also called as instance of a class. Means instance of a class is nothing but, you can say, it is a means it is a it is belonging to the class. Okay, that is the literal meaning. Instance of a class means it is going to belong to that particular class. Okay, you can understand it that way. Now, objects of the same type are created or instantiated from the same class. Instantiation means nothing but creating the objects. How you create an object? Furniture, that means class name, and then the object. This is how you create an object of the class. Same as how you create an integer. You write int a, here you write class name and object name. Okay, so creating an object is nothing but instantiating an object. It is the same thing. Okay, so, and you can also say that each object of the class, you can create multiple objects of the same class. For example, you have furniture class. You can have table as an object of furniture class. You can have chair as an object of furniture class. You can have sofa as an object of furniture class. Means multiple objects of the same class is possible. And Java uses these variables to define data fields and methods to define actions. That is what I said. Variables are nothing but data fields, and the actions that you perform, or the behavior, or you can say the behavior, is nothing but the method. Okay. Some more examples. And this state and behavior is nothing but the identity of the object. Okay, these are some theoretical part that I want to mention. Another example that I can give you is a class which is called as bank. Bank is the name of the class. Then what states you can have? Can you give me some examples? Like, can you just suggest me what variables I'll have, what states I can have? Anything you can tell me suitably.
ATM machine.
Okay, so ATM machine will actually become the function, right? Means you can perform something in the ATM machine using the ATM. Means, for example, what I'm telling is balance can be a
Transaction.
variable. Yeah, balance can, okay, transaction, yes. Balance can be whatever balance. Transaction you can have. So it will indicate whether the transaction was deposition of money or withdrawal or something like that. And okay, so these can be some examples of states. Behaviors can be what? Deposit the money. Another behavior can be withdraw the money. Another thing can be avail for loan service. Okay, so whatever actions you can perform in the bank, okay, like that. And what other things you can have? Account number can be another state, right? It can be a variable or a state. The balance that you have. Then your FD, fixed deposit amount, that can be another variable, right? So are you understanding what is a state and what is a behavior?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so these are some real world examples. So suppose you have an employee class. Then the variables can be employee ID, the name of the employee, age of the employee, gender, then how much salary he earns. All that can be the like details of the employee, or the data members you can call, or states you can call, or fields you can call. Everything is the same. And methods can be what? Maybe set the ID, means you want to change the ID maybe, or you want to say display salary. That can be another method. Another method can be apply for job leave. Okay, so these are some methods that the employee can, means what the employee can do. And together the data members and the methods will form your class, whose name is employee in this case. Okay. Now the state of an object is property values, point object, width. Okay, so another example. Suppose you have a class rectangle, suppose. Okay, if you have a class whose name is rectangle. Can you suggest me what will be the states or the variables?
Length, breadth,
Length,
height.
breadth.
Exactly. Length, breadth. Okay. These can be some variables or the states. What can be the methods? Any idea? Or
Area.
Perimeter. Area, perimeter.
Yes, correct. Calculating area, calculating perimeter. Maybe extend the size of rectangle. Okay, means whatever actions you want to perform. So these are some examples again. Or maybe simply display the perimeter, set the radius if it is a circle. Okay. Then, so here I have created an object of employee class. Okay. So employee, the name of the class, name of the object of that class, new keyword, and then the same class name and your brackets. We have seen this way of writing. Same thing you have to use to create an object. Now, non-static methods. So methods or behaviors are the ones that you define inside your class. Now they may be either static or they may be your normal methods, that is non-static. Okay, if you don't write static means it is non-static. So if it is non-static, then you have to always call it using the object name. For example, if show is the method or the behavior, then if you want to call that method or call that function, you have to write the object name, that is e dot show. Suppose you have another method. So show is nothing but it is a non-static one. Without the static keyword means it is non-static. Suppose you have another method which is static. So I'll write static, whatever return type, and then I'll write display, suppose. So display is a static method. Okay. So static methods can be called without the object name or also with the object name. Okay. So if you want to call it without the object name, then you have to call it using class name. Okay. Without the object name means you have to call it using class name. Okay. So this is a static for the object-oriented programming. We have seen static before also. That is different. This is static for object-oriented programming. Okay. So here you'll write the class name, that is employee dot display. So you can use if it is static, you can call it using the name of the class. And if it is non-static, you can call it using the name of the object. And here there's another class called as point. Okay, and you can pass some values also here that we'll see how we can do that. But for now, remember, think of that it is a class point whose name is point, class name is point. So you can create multiple objects. So P1 and P2 are two objects of this class point. If you try to print out P1 equal to P2, it will give you false, because though they are objects of the same class, they are not equal. Okay. Though everything may be same, you are passing 0, 1, here also you are passing 0, 1. But the objects P1 and P2 are different. They are not the same. So if you write equal to, it will return false. So two objects will never be same. Okay. There are some ways to make them same, but in general, they are not same. So if you try equal to, it will give you false. Now some real life application of this, your graphical user interfaces, if you want to create. Okay. Then here, you can see this text box. So you can create multiple text boxes. That means you can create multiple objects. So each object is actually a text box. So text box 1, text box 2, all these are the objects of a particular text class. Okay, this is another analogy I'm giving, similarity. Similarly, here you have send button and you have reset button. So these are two buttons belonging to the button class. Okay, so object-oriented programming can be used to create such graphical user interface, which we'll be doing maybe after 2 or 3 sessions. So quite interesting. Okay, so we can stop here for today. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. And put your attendance in the chat box. We'll be seeing examples next time. Yes, tell me.
Sir, in the main function, we write string square bracket args. What does that mean?
That is actually for if you want to run your programs without an IDE, for example. So using your command line, that is CMD, also you can run the programs. So whatever is the name of your Java program, here you will write. And then over here, how can you pass some parameters? So actually here, when you use your IDE, if you want to accept some input from the user, then what you do, you get to type it over here. We use that system.in, that scanner class. So here we can specify the input over here and it will accept. But if we are running our programs to the command line over here, here we want to pass the input. So it is for that we use this strings args, string args. So args is again an array of strings. Means in this array you will store strings, and those strings are nothing but whatever you specify over here from your command line. So it is used for command line programming actually. Okay, that we'll see later on. But why it is for this purpose? Is it clear?
Okay, sir.
Yes. Any other doubts? And I would like to give you a small assignment which you can try. Try to create, since you have seen functions, since you have seen operators, okay, try to create a simple calculator to add to numbers, subtract to numbers, okay? And also handle the case when you divide by 0, okay? Means you can simply use an if else. If the denominator is 0, then give the message that it is not acceptable and re-enter the denominator. Something like that you can try out, okay? Means you can use your functions, if else operators, so that you'll get some practice, okay? Try it on your own. And then once you write the program, after a few sessions, we'll create a graphical user interface for that. Okay, so be ready with the program. And already some person has done that, but he has uploaded it in the wrong place, I guess. He has uploaded it in the doubts Google form. So if you are here in the meeting, just try to upload it in the upload section. That means over here. Just a minute. Here in your sheet, someone has uploaded it over here in your doubts form over here. Don't upload it here. Upload it in the self-practice Java programs folder. Okay. Yes, someone was asking some doubt, I suppose. Yes, any doubts?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome. You can leave if no doubts.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Bhaiya, I have a doubt.
Yes.
The same doubt I was asking. Can I share my screen and show you the error?
Okay, I'll stop sharing. You can start.
Just a second.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Don't put too much sugar.
So here, where is my code? Yes. So there was assignment. There was a question in assignment 3, the question number 2 basically, where we had to enter the marks of 3 subjects, and we had to calculate the average and passing criteria. I hope you remember the question. So where
Yes.
basically where we have to calculate the percentage. So instead of writing the entire code in the main function, I created 2 functions, like function cal percent and calculate percent. So I'll just show calculate percent to you so that you get an idea of it. So here it is. So basically, my doubt is when I I'll just comment this out, and I'll write here return 0. So here it shows error. I will just try to run this.
Because your return type is float, right? I can see float over there.
Yes, float. Actually,
So
I wrote
make it
static
integer.
float.
Make it int because you're returning 0. Maybe
Okay,
that's
okay.
the
If I try to write 0.00,
Yeah, you can try that. Write F also at the end.
F.
Small F. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not getting that run button here over here.
Just right click anywhere on your screen.
Run main, right?
and run. Yes. Yeah.
Stop and run. So okay, it's working now. I was trying to solve that
Yeah.
only. So initially, then it asked me to like declare a variable and then try to run I if it has float type. So I can do that with this variable thing, but I'm not able to do it without like this. So I just fucking out. And one more,
Okay.
the second doubt is like just now you said about that public thing. So as you said, it is optional, right? We can skip this or either we can write it. So why it is provided to us? Like even if I just cut this out and
Actually,
if I just yes, please.
yeah. Yeah.
Tell
Continue. Yes. Okay. So I
No,
was
no.
saying that.
Yes.
Uh, okay. So I was saying that for the main you have to write public. Okay. This is the main function. But for your class name, public is optional. Okay. Here you have to write public.
Okay. So even if I try
Uh,
to run it, uh, Ranhuja?
See, you're not getting run option, right? Because
Yes, I'm
and
not
you can see
getting.
a cross mark near your hammer means top right. You can see that hammer icon.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, next to that you can see that cross main because main is
yes.
not public, so you're getting that cross. So write
Oh,
public over there. That cross should go. Just try that.
mm, yes.
Yes, it has gone.
Mm,
Okay.
okay,
So
got
public main, always public main, and for your classes, here you have only one
it.
class, I suppose. So there it is optional public, right?
Okay,
Only
okay.
one class you have, I guess.
Yes. Other are the
Okay.
two functions.
Yes, correct.
This was my only doubt. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, so I'll end this meeting if you don't have any other doubts.